Hello and welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast with me, Lindsay White. I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs be great leaders, build high-performing teams, and create inspiring workplace cultures through innovative talent programs and practices. Because when people feel like they belong at work, they deliver their very best and businesses thrive. The Female Founder Friday podcast is all about connecting with the most incredible female entrepreneurs to talk about their journey to creating their own business, the mistakes they've made along the way, and how they view their own leadership. And I'm challenging all of my guests this season to take my leadership style quiz. And during each episode, we'll be digging into their leadership style and how it impacts the way they lead in their life and their business. And if you're interested in learning more about your leadership style and want some of my top tips to help you lead more effectively, you can take the quiz right now. Just check out the show notes or head over to highvoltageleadership.ca and click on the button at the top of the page that says Take the Quiz. Then you can share your results, connect with my guests, and join the conversation on Instagram by following me at highvoltleadership. My special guest this week is Andrea Horvath. And Andrea is a former financial leader and accounting professional turned transformational career coach. And while she spent 25 years building a very successful corporate career, Andrea found herself feeling really disconnected, burnt out, and overwhelmed, like so many of us. And now what she does is coach ambitious and driven women who have felt that same sense of disconnection to find really meaningful and fulfilling careers. She's got a lot of wisdom to offer us today, so let's jump into that conversation. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Female Founder Friday podcast. I have Andrea here with me today, and I am actually really excited to learn more about her journey to becoming a female founder and some of the other important pieces around her leadership and how she works in her business. So, Andrea, thanks for joining me. So glad to have you this afternoon.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me here, Lindsay. It's fabulous to be here. Thank you.
My pleasure. It was a long time coming. We talked about having Andrea on the show, and then for whatever reason, we kind of stopped talking about it, and life got in the way, and business got in the way. And so we finally figured it out, which I'm always really glad. And people are so patient with me as I try and stick handle all these pieces. Andrea, tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming an entrepreneur and a female founder. What is that all about?
Actually, my journey, Lindsay, began quite a few years ago. After I had my daughters, I took a few years off from the corporate world. I used to be a CPA in corporate management, and I had my daughters, and my oldest daughter was actually ill when she was born. So I ended up taking off 5 years from the corporate world, and I didn't want to go back. Something in me, I wanted the freedom. I had been off for 5 years, which really... and running a household and running kids. And I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But a divorce came along too. So, reality sunk in and I had to go back to corporate. So at that point, I was doing it just to pay the bills and to get through, because that's the life, that I had to face right now.
Yeah.
And the next number of years, I just dove into personal development because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I wanted to do something different, but I didn't know what it was. And so I spent the next number of years, raising kids, working full time, and really working on myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that because I think a lot of people, they're in their corporate job, and they know that it's not really what they like, but they sort of stop at this idea of what else, what could it be? Who am I supposed to be? And those are difficult questions. Like, to be fair, that's a little bit scary and life is busy. But I love that you sort of just decided to step into that. And I mean, divorce is a great opportunity to rethink, like, what am I doing? But that's actually an act of courage to do that kind of really deep personal development work.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. It's so interesting. When I look back, I didn't feel like I had an option because, like, as you said, when you hit a divorce, it was like, okay, I'm not doing something right here.
What is happening?
This is not going the way I planned it. So I'm the common denominator in my whole life. I've got to figure this out.
Yeah.
And I've got to figure it out for my kids too.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I was a single mom for a long time, and it was one of the big motivators for me is that I too didn't I wanted to figure it out for my daughter. I wanted to be a great example of what a woman could create in her own life. So I identify with that.
Yes, absolutely. And I have two daughters too.
Yeah.
So it was really important for me to figure it and just to figure it out just to be happy. I realized I had just did so many things in my life just out of following my family's footsteps, doing what I was supposed to do.
Oh yeah.
And I think we often do that in life. We just follow that path and then get to a point where you realize this is not really what I thought it was going to look like and
Yeah.
really feel like is what it often is, right?
Uh
I'm
yeah.
supposed to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, let's be clear. You are supposed to feel fulfilled and joyful and energetic in your life. Like that is actually the
Yeah,
way it is, as opposed to disconnected and dissatisfied and just generally like a zombie moving through a space where you don't really fit. That's
exactly.
actually not the way it's supposed to be.
Very true. And unfortunately, majority of our population does live that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
So
think everyone, you and I could probably name 5 people. Everyone listening can probably articulate someone they know, or maybe it's their own experience of like, how is this my life? Like, how did I get here?
very,
Right?
very true. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, I love that you were just, you again, I think that that's an act of courage when you consciously decide that this isn't how I want to be anymore. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do some work here.
yes, yes, exactly. And so I just dove into courses. I got a spiritual mentor. I pretty much just became a sponge
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love it.
and
Sucking it up.
just kept going and just kept learning. And one thing led to it's like if it's that red thread, where it like one thing leads to the next thing, to the
Yeah.
next, to the next, to the next. The next thing you know, you look back, you realize how far you've come.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. It is, right? Like you it, you didn't say the word, but in all of that is just a really deep abiding curiosity. You just get curious.
Yes.
You just get
Yes.
deeply curious about it, and you're right. It leads you in the right direction. And one
Exactly.
opportunity after another just pops itself up.
I love how you said the right direction because it is always the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
just get curious about it, follow your nose, as they
Yeah.
say, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And so I eventually read books and I realized, I mean, through a lot of learning about how I operate and all these different things I figured out. And then I read a book about coaching and I'm like, coaching, it's, it's kind of what I do anyways.
Ah,
And you can actually do this for work because I naturally did it
mm,
with people in my life.
right.
And so it was a moment of realization of this is actually what I'm supposed to do.
I love that. And I identify with that because I think I had a moment very similar to that where I recognized I love asking a smart person a great question and they look at me and say, I don't even know how to answer that. Like there's something really magical when you can see people thinking differently. You can see the light bulb come on, as they say, right?
Absolutely. Actually, I have goosebumps as I'm hearing you say that because I feel the exact same way. And I love empowering people. I love seeing people win. Like I truly, genuinely
Yeah.
love seeing people win. Like that just lights me up. So if I get to have a small part in somebody's life where they shift and change and can change the trajectory of their life, like that's just brilliant. I can't imagine doing anything different.
Yeah, it's super rewarding work. I think one of the things, again, that you've highlighted beautifully is that being a great coach, you are a guide, you are an observer, you are a support person on that journey, but the journey is theirs, right? It really belongs to them. Now, are we helpful and supportive as coaches? Do we throw out some things that we think are useful? Do we have some tools that we might be able to offer? But you said it. It's really observing them and the honor of being a part of that journey for them that is so special.
You use actually a really great word that I use often is honor,
Yeah. Yeah. It
because they
is.
share some pretty intimate details. There
Sure.
are things that clients share with me that I'm sure a lot of their, friends and family don't know about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a privilege.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really important part. Now, of course, you get two coaches on a podcast and what do they talk about? But I do think I think that's an important part about being a really a powerful and impactful coach is that you do create that space for people to show up with what they're really holding, right?
Yes,
Get to lay all your cards
absolutely.
out. And I know I've had that experience personally. I mean, I work with my own coach because you got to practice what you preach, right? And sometimes just the cathartic nature of having that space to just show the cards that you're holding so tightly, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I'm not surprised that you create that beautiful space for people.
Oh,
And
thank you. Thank you.
yeah, and I know you work with a lot of people that are transitioning their careers or thinking about transitioning their careers, and that's a tricky time for a lot of people.
It really is. There's so many things that are going on. So, I mean, to fast forward my story, so I, did the training and did all
Yeah.
those great things, and I started a side business, but then there I was with a corporate full-time job. I'm a single parent still.
Yeah.
I've got a mortgage. How do I do this?
Yeah.
Like, how do I do it was scary. And so
Yeah.
so now when I'm coach people, I understand because I've been there. I mean, eventually what happened with me was I was actually fired
Yeah.
from my job.
Yeah.
And the moment it happened, it was a realization deep within me that this was a gift.
Yeah.
God, universe, or whatever, when you believe in it, for me, it's God. God was going, you weren't going to move. So we are shoving you out of the nest. It's time to fly.
Yeah.
And so when it happened, I was grateful. I mean, obviously a lot of other emotions, but
Sure.
overwhelmingly this is time to go.
Yeah.
And so it is tricky for everybody. And everybody has their own unique circumstances about why they can't, they don't feel comfortable, they don't want to, or whatever it is. We all
Yeah.
have a story and
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah.
And so it's just about getting really aligned and being able to have all the strategies, but also to have the vision. Got to
Yeah.
have the vision, right?
Yeah. No, I love that. And you're right. I mean, I happen to believe that the universe conspires for us. And sometimes it doesn't feel like that. Sometimes it feels like a punch in the face
Very true.
before it feels like a gift. Um, but I think you're right. And I love that the universe, God, higher power, spirit. I mean, we all refer to it slightly differently. It pushed you in the direction that you were actually supposed to go. And sometimes, and I'm like that too. I'd probably still be at my corporate job if I hadn't been given, yeah, essentially the punch in the face that I needed to move and to move dramatically. And so I love that you leverage your experience in helping others so that they don't maybe have to get the punch in the face, that they that they can do it a little bit, a little bit more with a little more finesse, maybe is how I would put it. A little more grace, a little more style.
Unfortunately, and I hear what you're saying. Unfortunately, sometimes we need that though. There's still, and I understand it. And I will always say to people when they say they're not happy and they'll say to me, well, I'm just going to, stick it out for a while longer. And I always say to them, give it a time limit and also clearly articulate what you need to happen.
Yeah.
Because 6 months can turn to a year. And eventually, if you're not in alignment, you will find the kick in the face, right? So
Yeah.
start planning. And I mean, I was grateful that I had a plan. I already was coaching.
Yeah.
I already was doing, I mean, I wasn't anywhere near where I needed to be, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but I had a plan.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Totally. And a plan, I mean, for many of us, we need that. We need the plan. We need to know the steps. Even if we're not ready yet, it will help us get ready because we know we have some knowing. And whether we can take that step ourselves or again, some higher power gives us the shove. having that plan in place, I think, gives you some reassurance that it's not all bad, right? That you don't end up floundering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
do truly believe life happens for us, not to us. That is
Oh,
a belief
100%.
I have
Yeah.
taken on years ago and has served me well.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I think so. And that, I mean, I always sort of look at it as there's a gift or an opportunity in every situation. There's always a silver lining. Again, sometimes it takes a beat to see it. But there's always something that you can take away. And you're right. If you can look at your world from that perspective, then you can always move forward with greater purpose. So I really love that. I really, really appreciate how you leverage everything that you've learned to support people as they take some pretty big steps forward. I think that's super. I think that's super cool.
Oh, thanks so much, Lindsay. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So Andrea's taken my leadership style quiz. You could probably guess what kind of leader she is already. But if you want to know what kind of leader you are, you can check out the link in the show notes, or you could go directly to highvoltageleadership.ca. There's a little button at the top of the page that says take the quiz. It only takes a few moments to complete, and it's going to give you some insights about what your leadership style is, some of your leadership superpowers, what you're really awesome at. I'm also going to send you some of my top tips to help you be a more effective leader. So, Andrea, I don't think that this is going to be a stretch for anybody that's listening or anyone that knows you. What's your leadership style?
It would be a coach.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So what does that show up like? I mean, obviously in your business, you are a coach, but you're a mom, you are a friend, right? Like we have a ton of different relationships. How does that show up for you all over the place?
For me, my deep desire is for people to be empowered themselves.
Yeah.
That is my greatest desire. So it's about providing the space, providing the tools for anybody who, including my daughters, most definitely.
Yeah.
And also instilling their people's greatness. And I think that is something that's missing in this world, is that people don't see their own amazingness.
Totally.
It's if I always say if people could see, if they could see themselves how I see them, when I talk to a client who's, and I'm always amazed when I talk to clients and they're, when I first start working with them, they tend to be low in confidence because they're in the wrong place doing the wrong thing, right? And they start to tell me the stories of what they've done in their career. And I'm always blown away. I'm like, if you could hear what you're saying, the amazingness and what you have done and created and just who you are.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a big part of this, is when people are more confident and more empowered, they can do great things. They can do freaking amazing things.
Beautifully said. I don't know who coined this phrase, but I use it all the time. You can't read the label from inside the bottle.
So true.
And
so true.
Right? Isn't that the perfect metaphor?
I think it was you who told me this, and since you told me this, I've thought of it multiple times. It resonates with me so incredibly deeply. Like it is so true.
I love that phrase. I always see a Heinz 57, like the glass Heinz 57 ketchup bottle in my head. I don't know why, but again, if you know who coined that phrase, tell me. I need to give them full credit because I use it way too much. I hope it's not copyrighted. But that is what coaching offers each of us as an individual. And no matter which kind of coach and why you are approaching coaching, it offers every one of us the opportunity to see ourselves reflected more accurately, more who we truly are. And a great coach pulls that out of you and shows that to you that you've never seen before. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly. That is such a special thing to be able to offer another person, is that reflection.
It's so much fun.
It is.
It really is. It's so much fun to be able to do that and see people shift.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It really is.
Yeah. 100%. I absolutely love that. we could talk about that for ages. Because it is a meaningful place. And if you are thinking about approaching, having a coach, getting a coach, that is something that you want to ask about, is how they will help you, understand yourself and see yourself more effectively, because that's a really important element of connecting with a great coach. Andrea, I want to ask you, I mean, you've been in business now for a few years. Where have you, made mistakes or missteps, and what have you learned? What gifts or opportunities have you found in those truly challenging moments as a female founder?
Well, it was really interesting because I realized after starting a business, so much of what I learned in corporate wasn't applicable.
Right?
It's so true. And I thought, well, okay, you get a website. That's the first thing you do. Because I think in corporate, that's what we would have done. You get a website.
Right.
Well, if you don't have clients, how are you going to write copy for it? You're not going to get any traffic going there. And so it was this administrative work that I naturally went to first.
Interesting.
And it was really frustrating. And the ironic thing is I see other people that I coach now who are starting a business do the exact same thing. So now I'm well aware that this is just a corporate transition to being a founder that you can go through and experience. And I was lucky, very blessed, that I hired a coach right away who went, whoa, stop.
Yes.
And he was able to pull me back on track. But I went down some rabbit holes for a little while.
Sure.
And wasted time and money, essentially, right?
Right. Yes. No, you know what? I actually think that is such a great point, particularly to offer this audience. And some of the audience are experienced entrepreneurs, and some are maybe even thinking they might want to start their own business. And I think that's actually a really beautiful thing to offer. It's like that actually isn't necessary. All of that administrivia, maybe I would call it.
It isn't. You don't actually need all those things to actually make money.
No,
you
you
need
don't.
to talk to people.
Yeah.
You need to
totally. Yeah. Yeah.
You need to get out in the world.
It's for real. I was so lucky. I worked with a coach pretty early on that really helped me understand, how my personal values and my purpose needed to line up in my business. And how I could craft something that was deeply meaningful for me. And so then when I did get to the place where I needed a brand and I needed a website and I needed some of these pieces, I felt like that work came a little bit, it was still hard work because that's not how, our brains operate. But I felt like that was a really key piece initially, was just understanding, how is this business going to be a reflection of who I am and what I want to create in the world.
So important, because if you're out of alignment, it's not going to feel good. And people can feel it too.
Oh, 100%. That's such a great, but you're right. You're kind of right back where you started from, whether you were
exactly. Because really, it's about being in alignment. This is how I look at it. I love the word alignment. I feel like I use it all the time, but that's it.
Yeah.
It's having your career, I mean, really your whole life, be a reflection of what you want it to be and who you really are as a person.
Yeah.
And not everything fits. I think what people often do is they see, well, this person over here is happy doing this, so I should do this. Well, that works for that person. But that's not you.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's something, and I don't know you as a coach, if this is something that's on your radar, but I see a lot of coaches and consultants and service providers in the marketplace who really use people's own sort of deep-seated worries, the shoulds, the saboteurs, the insecurities against them, right? I've created this great business. I have this and I can sell it to you. And in fact, what they're selling is maybe what worked for them or the lifestyle that they have. Or, especially in our social media world, this image of some kind of perfection or success that may or may not be accurate. Like anybody can rent a Lamborghini for the afternoon, lean against it and have pictures taken. Let's just be clear.
100%.
They own the Lamborghini. But I see a lot of that, and I'm sure you talk to people like this as well, where I'm like, is that really what you want? Is that what success looks like for you? Is leaning against a Lamborghini with dollar bills in your hands? That's what worked for them. Is that
Mhm.
really what is important for you? I think it's such an interesting conversation.
I think it's one of the most important conversations we can have right now, because as most people have seen in the last few years, title and money are not making people happy,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And so what does make you happy? What is going to make you feel fulfilled? What does that look like? And it looks different for every single person. There is no magic formula that says it's going to fit for everyone.
No. No.
And that's what we're trying to do
Yeah.
in many cases, is we're trying to fit into these little square boxes, and it doesn't work.
No. No. And you said it earlier, the shoulds, right? We come sort of
Yeah.
front end loaded with a bunch of things we should do, whether that's from our family or our culture or our region, right? Whatever. We come, we carry around these shoulds that have absolutely nothing to do with what we really desire to be or to have or to create.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happened with me. And I
Yeah.
know if like all the clients that I work with, it's the same story,
Yeah.
and it's being able to separate yourself from that and start to step into who you really are,
Yeah.
and it can feel scary at first.
Sure. Because there's
Yeah.
some layers to peel back on that onion.
Yeah, potential disappointments. Are people still gonna, want me around? And lots of things can pop up and crop up.
Oh, relationships that
Yeah.
need to change, conversations
Yeah.
that need to happen. And at the center of all of that is, again, that deep, meaningful self-reflection. You said it, digging in, doing the deep work, finding out the important things about yourself that you may not even realize you were missing.
Yes.
Right?
So funny story. So,
Yeah.
I was a CPA, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
everybody kind of has their image of what an accountant does. I have a deep-seated need for connection.
Yeah.
Like, you can see how
Yeah.
that
No.
was not being met, being an accountant. And I had no idea. I had
Right?
no idea when I became an accountant that I had a need for connection. And so guess what? Coaching provides one of the most beautiful opportunities for connection you could ever find. So it's perfect, but I had no idea. None.
So essentially, you had no business being an accountant.
No, no, but you know what? Actually, I was pretty good at it. Numbers
I'm
are
sure
actually
you were. Like, I have no
that's
doubt of your professional abilities.
yeah.
But in fact, like, isn't that funny, right? We end up doing things,
Mhm.
because either an external or an internal voice tells us that that's what we should do.
Yeah. Well, and I was good at it. And the reason I bring that up is because I think often we also believe that because I'm good at something,
Yeah,
I
right.
should, and there we go again, I should be doing this.
And on the
Right?
opposite side, we believe because we're not good at it, we shouldn't do it. So, for example,
100%.
I don't have an artistic bone in my body. I can do stickmen. I love to paint. Should I not be painting because I'm not Rembrandt? Well, of course not. That's absolutely ridiculous. I love to paint. It's terrible. Nobody's ever going to buy my picture. But damned if I don't have a lot of fun expressing
Oh,
my creativity. So I would say on both sides, right? We do
mm,
things because we're good at them, but we don't love them. And we don't do things because we're terrible at them, but we really do love them. Well, if you can find something in the middle that you're actually reasonably good at and you really enjoy doing, that's where the magic happens, whether it's in a career in the corporate world or it's in your own business, right? But that's, I think, what we all want.
100%. And the thing is that a lot of times we don't even know we're good at something because we think we're not good at it. Or we think
Someone told
we'll
us we shouldn't do it.
exactly, exactly. It's all those shoulds. So, I mean, that's just been, I think, a story of my, number of years is just peeling off all those shoulds and going, well, what's underneath all of this? Like, really, truly.
Yeah, exactly. Andrea, thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation. And for anyone who is listening, if you feel like you are trapped by some of those shoulds, you should, you should seriously consider working with a coach. And I say that with deep sincerity, because a coach like Andrea or myself will absolutely be in service of helping you figure out what's underneath all of that, what's happening, what you really need, what's happening on the inside, essentially. So a little shameless plug there for, I do that as often as possible, because coaching is transformational. It's not just a saying. Andrea and I have experienced it. It's a transformational relationship. And so if you know your world needs to be different, then you need to think about working with a coach, but you need the right coach. That's maybe another episode. But Andrea, thank you. You've brought up some absolutely brilliant points, reminders, and great reflections today. Deeply honored to have you on the show. This has just been a lovely, lovely conversation.
Oh, thank you so much, Lindsay. It really has been fantastic. Thank you so, so much.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. I sure hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. And if you did enjoy today's episode, would you do me a favor? Would you give the episode a 5-star review and share it with all of your friends? I would really appreciate that. I've got a goal to impact 1,000 female founders, and with your help, we can really amplify this message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me and all of my guests on Instagram at High Volt Leadership. We'll see you next Friday.